Hello YouTube audience. Today is April the 10th, 2021 and it's probably the last freezing day in the spring this year, and I'm going to repot this Douglas fir into a proper bonsai pot. And I'm a big fan of native species. So Douglas fir is native to the Pacific Northwest, so it's relatively inexpensive tree to get. So by Douglas fir, I mean the tree in the center of the screen. There is another tree on the left side of the screen. That's a false cypress, Chemisiporus ping pong blue. If I have time, I'm going to repot that too. But this video is primarily focus on the Douglas fir. So last year, I first styled this tree, which I think there should be a video. I probably put it, I probably put it here. You can look back to, which was a pretty severe operation. I split the trunk and wired it with heavy gauge wires. At the time, I still not very familiar with Douglas fir, so I did the operation in October, which is too late for Douglas fir. But fortunately, because this is a young tree, I estimate it to be maybe about 10 years old, so it doesn't harm the tree. So it is said that Douglas fir went into dormancy relatively early, so it's September is probably the latest time that we can safely work on Douglas fir. But I did the wiring and styling in October. Fortunately, it didn't harm the tree. So now it's April. We are going to have probably the last freezing night tonight. From tomorrow on, there would be very warm temperature. So I'm going to repot it today and keep it indoor tonight. Tomorrow I'm going to put it out into a partial shaded area. And you can see the shape of it, it's looking pretty good. Most of the branches are wired, except for maybe one or two branches that's too young for wiring, like this one on the top of the tree. It's not wired yet, but when it gets more mature, get some wood on it, I'm going to wire it. And I'm going to repot this into a proper bonsai pot here. It's pretty big pot, but it's shallow. In terms of its width, it's wider than the original pot, but the depth is much shallower. I'm going to try to spread out the root and fit it into this pot. It's probably a little bit too big for the tree ultimately, but currently for training, it's probably a good pot. It's a oval unglazed pot, so it fits evergreen well, because evergreen tree is very calm and quiet tree. Probably fits a unglazed pot. And also the trunk movement is it's not a very thick trunk tree, and the a trunk line is more gentle and arrogant, so elegant, so it probably fits into a oval pot, as opposed to a rectangular pot, which is for more powerful, thicker trunk trees. So this is probably the pot for it. At least I picked this pot for it. And I've prepared the pot. There are a lot of draining holes. I have put mesh on top of the holes, and to prevent soil from falling out of the drainage hole. And I put these wire on top of the mesh to stop it from moving. So basically I twist these wires into a hairpin shape, let the wire go through the bottom of it, and on the other side basically fix the mesh from the other side. And also I put two wire from the bottom into the pot, and these two pair of wires are going to be used as tied-in wire to fix the tree in place, so that the tree doesn't move before the roots get established. So this is the preparation for the pot, and this is probably a good pot because there is a name on it. It's probably a Japanese pot. I don't know the Japanese, but there is a kanji here. I know the in Japanese there are some Chinese character. So this means the origin of a river or the origin of a spring. So this it's probably somebody's name. So okay, this is this pot, and in terms of the soil, I'm going to put a layer of drainage on the bottom that's consistent of some extra large lava rocks and some horticulture charcoal. So this is the charcoal I have. The idea for a drainage layer is because water normally accumulate on the bottom of the container, and it probably always dry out at the end. So to prevent the bottom of the container being too wet and become a source of root rot, the bottom layer is normally consists of larger grain particles. We don't need much of these layers, just one layer should be enough. And this particle is going to be very good for drainage, and it's going to be very difficult for water to accumulate in the bottom, so that we can effectively prevent root rot. But as long as your soil mix is opened, the drainage layer may not be necessary. So this is optional. So we don't need it to fit very well. It's just for drainage. As long as the water can flow through, that should be fine. And then the rest of the soil, I'm going to use this classic mix of 1 pot pumice, which is on the left, and 1 pot akadama, which is on the middle of the screen, and 1 pot lava rock, which is on the right. So akadama is so interestingly, all 3 particles are of volcanic origins. Akadama is a type of clay that's harvested in Japan, and they harvest this clay and bake it in high temperature to form these particles. Akadama has allow a lot of air in, but also retain a lot of water and also fertilizer. So akadama is a very good component. A lot of people in Japan plant their bonsai in almost pure akadama. But of course, a lot of times a conifer, like a pine, would need more drainage, and the lava rocks is mainly for drainage. It doesn't hold much water, doesn't hold a lot of fertilizer, but it's very, very good for drainage. And pumice doesn't hold much fertilizer, but it holds water and oxygen, so it's good for water and air in the root system. So a mix of 3 would allow the soil to maintain good amount of water and fertilizer while dry out relatively fast and maintain a lot of air in the soil. So this is the mix. I'm probably going to slightly, after I mix them, I'm probably going to slightly sieve the fine out a little bit. Simply probably just use my Anderson flat. So after that, and the other thing that's important I want to show is the, let's see, the tree, the last time I checked, has a lot of good fungus in their roots. It's called mycelium. Let's see, this time do we still have that? Another thing I want to show is the beneficial fungus in the root system of this tree. I want to see if it's still in there. Let's see. Okay, I think we still have some beneficial fungus, the white stuff, in the root system, because the wet winter, it's probably reduced the fungus a little bit, but we still have some beneficial fungus in there. So these are the white stuff. We also have some worms in there. I probably keep the worms in the soil. So I'm going to keep some of the old soils. Let's capture the worms. I will capture the worms later, but I'm going to keep some of the soil, the old soil, for the beneficial fungus. And now, after preparing the soil, the pot, I'm going to rake the old soil out and put it into the new pot with the new soil mixed with some of the old soil. And I will see you after that. I just finished repotting the Douglas fir on the center of the screen. So in this pot, there are several layers of it. The bottom layer consists of lava rocks and horticulture charcoal. The middle layer soil is 1 pot pumice, 1 pot akadama, 1 pot lava rock, and 1 pot of the old soil from the original nursery pot that has a lot of beneficial fungus in it. The topsoil was some of the pre-mixed bonsai soil that the particle size is smaller than the bulk of the soil I mixed today, that I put on the surface of the nursery pot last year when I styled the plant, because I got rid of some of the topsoil from the original nursery pot to find the surface root flare or the nibari of the tree. So I add some of the pre-mixed bonsai soil, which is also lava rocks, pumice, akadama mix, but with a finer particle size. And so I add some of those pre-mixed bonsai soil to the surface of the nursery pot to cover up the nibari that I digged out. As a result, after half a year, these bonsai soil has been inoculated with the beneficial fungus from the original soil. So I simply keep those topsoil and add it to the surface of this pot. And on top of that, I add some sphagnum moss. As you can see, the surface is all covered with sphagnum moss to cover some of the surface soil. The nibari, or the surface soil, surface root on this tree is actually relatively good. It's flaring out nicely. So some of them are exposed to encourage the growth of the nibari, or the surface root. I just add some of the sphagnum moss to protect them, to ensure that they just grow better. Okay, so after this repotting, what I need to do is to water the whole plant excessively, and watch the water that comes out from the drainage hole, and make sure that water is clear. First, it would wash out a lot of the fines of the bonsai soil, which is good. We don't want the fine particle in the soil, which is going to make the soil too wet and difficult for the root growth. So need to watch until the water that drain out become clear, and we know that it has get rid of most of the fines. Okay, so this is the repotting of this Douglas fir, and now it's a real bonsai. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.